All right, let's talk about Azure containers. If you've ever found yourself staring at all the options, just wondering, which one do I even pick? Well, you're in exactly the right place. Choosing between them can honestly feel a bit like picking a vehicle for a trip. Do you need a quick scooter, a reliable sedan, or a full-blown semi-truck? So let's just jump right in. The question is pretty straightforward, right? You need to run containers on Azure. Which service do you choose? You've got three main players on the field: Azure Container Instances, or ACI, Azure Container Apps, or ACA, and the big one, Azure Kubernetes Service, also known as AKS. Now, they're all powerful for sure, but they are built for very, very different jobs. Before we get too deep in the weeds, let's just start with a simple cheat sheet, a really quick way to frame this. Think of ACI as the simplest way to run just one container. ACA, that's your serverless sweet spot, pretty much perfect for microservices. And AKS, well, that's the full-blown powerhouse for complete Kubernetes orchestration. Now let's unpack what that actually means. All right, first up, ACI, or Azure Container Instances. If we're sticking with that vehicle analogy, ACI is definitely the scooter. It's the quick, easy, get-it-done solution for simple tasks. So what makes it so simple? Well, it's about as serverless as it gets for containers. You literally just hand it a container image, and it runs. That's it. You don't have to worry about managing virtual machines or any of that underlying infrastructure. Microsoft handles all of it behind the scenes, giving you that solid hypervisor-level security. It's all about spinning up a container on demand. Super, super simple. So when would you actually use this scooter? Well, think about quick, short-lived jobs. Like a data processing task that needs to run overnight and then just disappear. Or maybe some simple event-driven apps. But here's a really cool kind of pro tip use case. You can actually hook up ACI to your existing AKS cluster for what's called elastic bursting. This gives you instant on-demand capacity to handle a sudden traffic spike without messing with your main cluster. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, so if ACI is our scooter, what's next? That would be the sedan in our garage, Azure Container Apps, or ACA. People call this the serverless sweet spot for a reason. It just hits that perfect balance between being easy to use and having a ton of power, especially for the kinds of modern apps we're all building today. Now, here's the really interesting part about ACA, kind of the secret sauce. Under the hood, it's actually built on a real Kubernetes cluster. It's just one that's completely hidden and managed by Microsoft. So what does that mean for you? Well, you get all these awesome Kubernetes features, like event-driven auto-scaling and super useful tools like Dapper for handling tricky things like state management, but you don't have any of the headaches of actually managing the cluster. It's like getting all the power of Kubernetes without all the complexity. ACA is just tailor-made from microservices, where you have a bunch of different little services that all need to scale up and down on their own. It's fantastic for web apps, APIs, anything that deals with traffic that goes up and down. But you know what? The real game changer here is what it does for developer teams. It gives them the power to manage and deploy their own stuff without needing a deep infrastructure background. If your goal is to have your team writing code and not worrying about servers, ACA is, well, an absolute dream. And that brings us to the big one, the 18-wheeler semi-truck in our analogy, Azure Kubernetes Service, or AKS. Look, if ACI is for the simple stuff and ACA is for modern streamlined apps, then AKS is for when you need the ultimate no-compromises level of power, control, and flexibility. With AKS, you are getting the full, unadulterated Kubernetes experience. Now, Microsoft does you a huge favor by managing the Kubernetes control plane, which is honestly the most complicated part. But, and this is the key difference, you are in complete control of the worker nodes. That means you configure the networking, you set up the security, you manage the storage. Everything can be tweaked exactly to your specs. It's all about maximum control for maximum power. And let's be real, you don't always need that level of control. But when you do, you really do. AKS is built for those massive, complex enterprise apps that have a million moving parts. If you've got super specific networking or security requirements, or you need to do a hybrid cloud thing and connect back to your on-premise data centers, or, and this is a big one, you have to meet strict compliance or regulatory standards, AKS is often the only game in town that gives you that fine-grained control you absolutely need. Okay, so we've met our three contenders, the scooter, the sedan, and the semi-truck. Now it's time for the final showdown. We're going to put them side by side so you can see exactly how they stack up and hopefully make the choice crystal clear for your next project.
When you look at them like this, the trade-off becomes super obvious, doesn't it? As you go from left to right, from ACI to ACA to AKS, both the complexity and the control you have go way up. ACI is super simple, but you have minimal control. AKS gives you all the control in the world, but yeah, it's complex. And ACA, well, it sits right there in that perfect middle ground. And you see the exact same pattern with scalability. ACI gives you simple scaling, ACA brings in that really smart event-driven autoscaling, and AKS gives you the full power of cluster-wide autoscaling.
So how do you actually decide for your project what's the right call? It really just comes down to asking yourself 3 questions. First, what's my task? If you just need to run a single isolated container job and get it done fast, choose ACI. Easy. Second, what's my architecture look like? If you're building modern microservices or APIs and you love the idea of not managing servers, ACA is your go-to. And third, how much control do I really need? If the answer is all of it, if you need full Kubernetes power, custom networking for a complex app, then AKS is the only way to go. Look, at the end of the day, this whole choice between ACI, ACA, and AKS, it's that classic tug of war between simplicity on one side and control on the other. There is no single best service here. There's only the service that's best for your specific job. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. What does your next project truly demand? Simplicity or control? I hope this cleared things up. Thanks for joining me.